welcome to my Lawyer's Corner. My name is Tseho Khailai. Welcome to my Lawyer's Corner. If you are returning to my Lawyer's Corner, I'd like to say a very big welcome and a very big thank you for returning. It is so good to have you back with us. If you are a newbie and are coming to my Lawyer's Corner for the first time, I would really like to welcome you and hope you stay with us by clicking the subscribe button. So on my Lawyer's Corner, we share insightful information about the law in South Africa as it is happening and as it is applying. By profession, I am an admitted attorney. I have an LLB degree from the University of Johannesburg, as well as a postgraduate diploma in labor law from the same University of Johannesburg. So, disclaimer. Information shared on my Lawyer's Corner should not be taken as legal advice for your personal matter. I advise you to consult an attorney and make sure that you get advice and services that are tailor-made to your personal circumstances that you are facing at the time. Okay, so just had to put it out there. So on today's episode of my Lawyer's Corner, I want to talk about something interesting that's been happening on social media that has been developing, and it's the story of the apparent Dr. Mathew Lani. Alright, so I'm gonna say he's apparent because apparently he's impersonating a doctor, apparently he is a doctor. It's just completely unclear. Everything is just everywhere, and I'll refer to him as Dr. Mathew Lani because clearly he identifies as a doctor, and I don't want to infringe on how he identifies himself. Alright, whether he is or is not a doctor, clearly that remains to be seen. Okay, so initially I'm not a follower of his, I'm not a consumer of his content, but apparently he's been doing the rounds on social media, and he goes to hospitals, he shoots content from a hospital, he talks doctor, he looks doctor, he walks around with a stethoscope, and he talks about patients' diagnosis, and he talks a lot of medical jargon, and really passed off and gave the impression that really he is a doctor until someone uncovered something, and people started asking questions. One thing led to another, and someone actually came out and said that he's impersonating himself. Like, third party came out to say that apparent Dr. Mathew Lani is impersonating him. All right. The story developed. The University of Witwatersrand also came out questioning his qualification, or whether he studied at the University of Witwatersrand or not. The HPCSA also questioning whether he really has a medical license, or people questioning the HPCSA whether Dr. Mathew Lani has a license to practice as a doctor, if he's really a doctor. And post that, him posting letters of apology from all these institutions saying, we're sorry, we did not mean to bring your name into disrepute, or you really do hold a qualification from us, or you really do hold it's just been a hot mess. Fast forward from those weeks until Monday the 30th of October, where he is arrested at Helen Joseph for impersonation. Those were the charges that were apparently laid against him, and he was due to appear before the Johannesburg Magistrate Court on Tuesday the 31st of October, which is today when I'm recording this episode of my Lawyer's Corner. So he's apparently charged with impersonation. Let's talk a little bit about the charge of impersonation, right? Impersonation, basically pretending to be someone else or stealing someone else's identity and passing it off as my own. And essentially it's a charge of fraud, right? Let's just, for clarity's sake, go through the elements that bring together a charge of fraud or impersonation. It's basically an act or an omission, the misrepresentation. Now, the I am Dr. Mathew Lani, that's the act, right? It has to be unlawful, because I'm not Dr. Mathew Lani. It's against the law to steal someone else's identity. It has to have the intention to deceive. I am here saying I'm Dr. Mathew Lani, and I make you believe that I am Dr. Mathew Lani. I have deceived you, right? And I've deceived many other people who know the real, or I've deceived many other people that I'm the real Dr. Mathew Lani when there's apparently a real Dr. Mathew Lani, right? And that misrepresentation has to cause a third party or someone other than myself to act on that misrepresentation, leading to his actual or potential prejudice. It has to cause harm. My representation or misrepresentation has to cause harm. And obviously me deceiving you to believe that I am the real Dr. Mathew Lani has caused people to believe that I'm Dr. Mathew Lani and potentially question the real Dr. Mathew Lani, right? So those basically are the elements of impersonation or fraud, as I'd link the two very closely to one another. Those are the elements that would need to be proven before a judge or a magistrate or presiding officer that has to decide on the innocence or guilt of an accused person who is charged with the charge of impersonation. Okay, so that's basically his charges and the history of how it's come before the Johannesburg Magistrates Court for the senior public prosecutor to then decide to withdraw the charges, right? Let's talk a little bit about what happens when a senior public prosecutor decides to withdraw the charges that have been brought with a suspect. At that point, he's still a suspect because he's not an accused person. He hasn't been charged formally on a charge sheet and named as an accused person. At that point, he's still a suspect. Before an accused person appears before court, there's a whole back end of a process that happens leading from his arrest to his appearance in court. Now let's unpack that procedure. A complainant would call the police and complain of a criminal act that is taking place or has taken place or is imminent, is about to take place. The police would then arrest the suspect once they have established that indeed there is grounds to believe that the accused person has committed a criminal act or is committing a criminal act or is about to commit a criminal act. In some instances, you can be arrested for having the intention to commit a criminal act. Example, attempted theft. Now, once the police have arrested a suspect for committing an offense, the investigation then kicks off, right? Remember, once a suspect has been arrested, there is a duty to bring that person before a magistrate within 48 hours of their arrest. Okay, so Dr. Mathew Lani arrested Monday 30 October and brought before court Tuesday on the 31st of October. Before the accused person can be formally charged, i.e. the charge sheet filled and brought before a magistrate for him to appear, the senior public prosecutor has to go through each and every docket that is brought to court for first appearance by the police to ensure that on the face of it, there is a prima facie case. Prima facie means on the face of it, as in when the prosecutor is going through the physical docket and the evidence that is contained in the docket at that stage. On the face of it, there has to be a prima facie case strong enough for the prosecutor to bring before a court. And by that, I mean the prosecutor has to be satisfied that there is sufficient evidence at that stage to formally charge the accused person. And under the circumstances of Dr. Mathew Lani, the senior public prosecutor declined to place the matter on the roll, meaning they withdrew the charges. Does this mean this is the end of the matter? No. It doesn't mean that this is the end of the matter. It simply means that there are technicalities that the prosecutor needs to address further before being ready to bring this matter before court. And at which stage, or at some later stage, the prosecutor may be in a position to bring this matter before court. They may be giving the investigating officer instructions to investigate certain things. There's certain information that the prosecutor will need to put together to bring all the elements of the charges before a court, because at the end of the day, should they proceed with the charges, the state still has the duty to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt that Dr. Mathew Lani did indeed impersonate a doctor, caused a misrepresentation that was unlawful, and caused prejudice towards someone else, right? And until such a state, the prosecutor won't proceed with those charges. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the end of the story in terms of Dr. Mathew Lani. It just means that the police need to either investigate further. It means that there's information that the prosecutor would need in order to proceed with the charges. As to whether that will happen or not, I guess it remains to be seen, and it's something that I'm interested in, right? And I will be following. One thing that piqued my interest actually was that on the day of Dr. Mathew Lani's arrest, his attorney was very open with the media in terms of Dr. Mathew Lani's version, right? He disclosed that Dr. Mathew Lani is sure he's a content creator and he was just at the hospital shooting content, and that he was actually there to collect his medication. If I'm not wrong, he actually disclosed what medication Dr. Mathew Lani was at the hospital to collect. I don't know. I think I'm just a different attorney, and attorneys are at liberty to instruct or advise their clients as they see fit and receive instructions from their clients as such. Personally, I wouldn't disclose my client's version to anyone, never mind the media or the public, but the public through the media, before my client appears in court. Just to protect the integrity of my client's version, to protect the integrity of my clients to remain silent, to protect the integrity of my client's case. Because now, what do you believe? Do you believe that Dr. Mathew Lani is a doctor? Like he defended himself with his chest on his social media, saying that he is indeed a doctor, and everyone that was accusing him, all the naysayers, are just haters? Or now do you believe that he's just the content creator who went to collect his medication? It's a bit dicey. It's really a bit dicey at this stage, because really, what do you believe? What do you believe? My microphone is falling. Sorry about that. The question really becomes, what do you end up believing? And this matter, if it does proceed, will be brought before a magistrate who shouldn't have any prior, or shouldn't be influenced by any prior knowledge around this matter. But also, as his attorney, it would be very conflicting to get versions that are conflicting. And for me, as his attorney, I would have probably advised him to remain silent until the matter has aired itself out in court. Now that the charges have been withdrawn, it's going to be very telling how he proceeds in terms of his social media. Does he continue? Does he stop? Is he a doctor? Is he not? It will be very telling, and it will be very interesting to follow. And follow it is what I intend to do, and I hope that you will be following it with me. That is my story for today's episode of My Lawyer's Corner. I really do hope that you have received some insight or some nugget into criminal law, the elements of the offense fraud, as well as the back end of how a prosecutor decides, or how the prosecution decides to bring cases before a judge or a magistrate. I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode of My Lawyer's Corner. Do come back on My Lawyer's Corner and remember to follow my Instagram page. Adios, amigos.